Hi, I'm Katie Kioski. The great thing about Chicago is there's always something to discover. Here on Chicago Revealed, we leave no stone unturned and show you the people and places like the Wild Blossom Meadery that make Chicago a city like no other. On this episode of Chicago Revealed, Chicago's bees are doing more than helping out the environment. They're also helping out a local winemaker. We'll show you how they're working together. We'll bump, flip, and score with a local mafia who've taken a passion for pinball to a whole new level. And this isn't your mom's roller derby. We meet the women of the Windy City Rollers and discover it takes more than a pair of skates to keep up with this team. And if you'd like to spend an afternoon living in 15th century Europe wielding a sword as you face down a fellow knight, well, we've got the place for you. Busy as a bee? Well, Chicago's urban-dwelling bees are very busy, pollinating flowers and trees throughout the city's neighborhoods. What most people may not realize about our honeybees is that they also make the most important ingredient in a locally made wine.
I think 90% of the public doesn't know what mead is. And mead was the first fermented beverage on earth. Before grape wine was around, wine was made from honey, and that's what mead is. Any fermented beverage made from honey is considered a mead.
As the first kind of wine, mead was a novelty in ancient times because honey was expensive. It was reserved only for aristocrats and special occasions. In fact, it's where the term honeymoon came from, when bride and groom drank mead for one lunar cycle to celebrate their marriage. When beer and wine came around, they were cheaper to produce, so they became more popular. But since 1985, local winemaker Greg Fisher has been bringing back the lost art of mead making at the Wild Blossom Meadery and Winery.
A lot of people come in and they go, oh wow, there's a meadery in Chicago. We may be the first winery ever in the city limits of Chicago. We're on the Illinois Wine Trail, and we're the first winery, the start of the trail.
Greg also makes beer and grape wine at the Southwest Side Winery and sells all of the tools to make your own at home. But he says mead is growing in popularity again, and in the last 10 years, he's seen an increase of his mead sold in stores throughout Chicago and served up in local restaurants. He says similar to beer and wine, there are hundreds of different styles of mead from sweet to dry, and they are meant to be paired with food.
If you're looking for a dry Cabernet, no, that's not your forte. But if you enjoy dessert wines, very fruity wines, very floral wines, you have an open mind to your tastes, you'll definitely enjoy mead.
Wild Blossom Meads have gained state and national recognition. And because of Chicago's unique microclimate, the honey here and the mead tastes different than if it was made anywhere else in the world.
Depending on what flower the bees go to will affect the taste of the mead. Just like you make wine out of different grape varieties, you get totally different flavors. Honey from Chicago's lakefront versus Michigan Avenue is going to be different, so it will have a different taste than the mead.
We wanted to try hands-on how this local award-winning mead is made, and that means starting at the basics, getting down and dirty, harvesting honey. Greg has 80 beehives throughout Chicago, the Indiana Dunes, and in St. Anne's, Illinois. Since there are no longer any wild bees in the area, Greg has brought bees in from places as far away as Hawaii. Most of the hives in the city are along the lakefront on the south side, where the old U.S. Steel Southworks plant used to be. The bees here are actually helping to rebuild nature, where at one time the area was all brownfields. We joined Greg, though, at another one of his harvesting locations, in the middle of the hustle and bustle of the Magnificent Mile at the Marriott Chicago downtown. On the rooftop of the Marriott, bees flown in from California are now city dwellers, pollinating flowers along Michigan Avenue, Navy Pier, and Millennium Park. How do you get the bees to come all the way up here to the Marriott rooftop?
We're on top of a rooftop, but in the wild, they may be on top of a cliff or on a mountain in a valley. So to a bee, they're just on a big mountain and they're flying down to the valley to get nectar.
And they have
They have prime location right here.
Yeah, this is high real estate, Michigan Avenue real estate. You can't get anything better than this.
It's expensive to have a condo like this out here.
And there's about 40 to 50,000 bees per hive. So there's a lot of people living in each hive.
Wow, okay, it's crowded in there. So when we open those up, we're gonna see a lot of bees coming out, is what you're telling me?
Yeah.
On that note, it's time to suit up in our armor and get bee-proof. Greg explains that these bees don't sting too often, but he does get stung every once in a while if they get agitated and sneak into the suit. Greg lights up the savior of all beekeepers, the bee smoker, to help keep the bees calm.
So what's the worst mistake you can make if you are harvesting honey?
Probably knock the hive over, you know, that they're not happy about that.
So basically no sudden moves.
Yeah, no sudden moves, and you don't want to kill the queen, because she's the main gal there, and that can actually kill the whole hive. And your movements, you don't want to be flaring your arms up and down all over the place. People can come out to where there's bees, and they'll get stung, and bees won't even bother me.
I'm glad Greg is the one opening the top of what he calls the Sears Tower of hives. I find comfort in the fact that the queen is somewhere in the bottom. He pumps smoke into the hive right away, which throws off the guard bees' receptors so they don't sound an alarm to the rest of the crew that there is an intruder on the loose. The smoke also causes the bees to gorge themselves on honey, which makes them not mind so much that we're taking apart their home.
I'm making happy bees, what can I say?
As Greg takes out the honeycombs, I encounter a slight problem with the smoker.
I smell burning rubber. Feels as though if I may have melted my glove.
Uh-oh.
We trade jobs, and Greg says I have to act fast. As soon as the bees smell the honey, they want to rob it and bring it back to their hive, which makes them agitated.
All right, guys, don't get angry.
These are girls. All the guys, all they do is hang out and mate with the queen and eat honey. But when the girls don't eat them, they kill them.
Nice work, ladies.
Once we've taken all the honey we can, it's time for a taste test.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just chew the wax up like gum.
It was indeed the best honey I've ever tasted.
Each bee in his lifetime will make about a tablespoon of honey. Just a lot of bee work there.
We leave the bees to continue making honey and then hibernate for the winter. By the way, they will survive Chicago's winter. Their hives are made from specialized foam which will stand up to Chicago's harsh winters and winds. When we come back later in the show, we get sticky taking out the honey from the combs and turn this fresh honey into mead back at Greg's shop.